Hello and welcome to A New Day with Susan. I'm your host, Susan Yockey. And today I have with me a man who, after having qualified for the 1996 Olympics, Armando tore his hamstring mid-race, 6 weeks before the games. He was aware enough through his failures to develop a training approach to optimize performance on all levels of being. Armando helps individuals remember the forgotten power of movement in body and life. A storyteller, and his story are infused with the essence that we all embody, but so many have forgotten. Getting to the edge of a lifelong dream and then collapsing into a deep depression brought Armando a gift to share with others. I'd like to introduce to you Armando Hart. Thank you and welcome to my show.
Thank you, Susan. I love the intro.
You're welcome. So, you tore your hamstring right before the big deal, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine I was this little boy, a little 10-year-old boy who had this dream of one day being an Olympian, and just getting right to that edge of that dream and having it just snatched away like that was a very challenging time for me, and it was definitely something that wasn't expecting. But it happened, and I felt like I made the best of that experience.
Wow. So what, if you don't mind me asking, 1996, right? So how old were you when that happened?
I was 22 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I was 10 years old when that dream was born.
Yeah.
I was watching the 1984 Olympics, and I just felt that I needed to do that, and I needed to pursue that. And for the rest of my days, I especially when I started college, I took training really seriously and dedicated myself to that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't imagine what that must have been like during that time in your life. Oh, let me pause. Yeah, I couldn't imagine what that must have been like for you during that time in your life. So, well, you're here today because you have some really important areas of topics that you'd like to share with the audience. So I'm just going to let you go ahead and take over.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like that experience, and I really want to emphasize that how, sometimes in life we have these times where we go through something negative and dark, and we judge that and we label that experience as something that is holding us back, or we fall into victimhood. But one of the important things that I want to emphasize with that is that it's just an experience, and that 22-year-old that tore his hamstring and had his dream snatched away. At the time, yes, I was a victim, and I played that "why did this happen to me" role, and what did I do to deserve this? But looking back at it, it was an experience, and it's something that I feel that we all have as human beings, that we all have experiences, and sometimes our experiences don't, match up to the goals or the visions that we have or the intentions that we have for ourselves, but they are here to serve that. They are here to serve that intention or that goal. And the sooner that we accept that and we embody that and we own that, then the sooner that we can move towards a new reality and receive something probably even greater, because that was my experience. I had this goal and a vision of being an Olympian one day, but what came from that was something greater, which is what I'm doing now. I've written a book called The Heart Method. I speak on stage. I share my work, and I feel like I'm in a position to allow others to see that they also have this capacity within themselves.
Mm. What is some ways that looking back on that time, what did you do specifically to work through that process? What were some of the thinking of the thoughts that you had when that happened?
Well, when that happened, I felt I was in a time in my life where I was forcing myself to move and force myself forward. And I'm not just talking physically, because I was doing that physically. I was physically moving my body very forcefully,
Mm-hmm.
and because I wanted to achieve and I wanted to make that dream come true. But also, I think I was in a time in my life where I was also trying to do that in life. I was moving my life forward forcefully and not listening to myself, not listening to that inner voice, that was telling me like something is off. And I felt like there was this connection between how I was moving my body and how I was living my life. And when that experience happened, when I tore my hamstring, I fell into depression. I felt like I didn't want to move forward in life. I felt like if I moved forward in life, I would get shot down. Mm-hmm. So it was this inner belief. I felt like this sabotage in me that if I moved forward, then I was going to get shot down. So what was the point of moving forward? So, I wasn't fun to be around with. My relationships kind of crumbled. And I just went into a cave. I went into darkness. And, as a young boy, as a teenager, I was very driven. I was very motivated. I would go above and beyond my expectations as far as making my goals come true. And I reconnected to that. Essence, I guess, if you want to call it, of how can I move beyond this? What can I do? And I have this little light in me that always felt like there's more. And I had this opportunity to move to train with one of the best coaches at the time, who lived in Houston, Texas. And that part in me, that essence in me that said, you know what, go above and beyond your expectations. You feel like you need to do this, go ahead and do it. And I went ahead and I got in my car and I drove to Texas, even though I wasn't emotionally stable, even physically 100%. I went over and I started to train with this coach. And one of the powerful things that he told me was to put my foot down. And this is when I was actually out there practicing, he said, you have potential, but all you have to do is just put your foot down. And it was the complete opposite of what I was hearing throughout my career. I never heard that command. I've never heard that tip to put my foot down. So I was very curious about that. And it was interesting because that action of putting my foot down physically was a very powerful position, a very powerful act, because that going down is what created the opposite reaction of the opposite leg coming up. So if you imagine, bouncing a ball, the ball just doesn't bounce up. The ball actually has to be thrown down, and then it hits the ground, and then it bounces up. Mm. So if you really think about it, that's what he was telling me. So to put my foot down, and then for it to make contact with the ground, and then the opposite leg would come up just like that ball. So that was, for me, the change that started to happen, because there is also this part in me that this dream in me or this vision that I wanted to be someone of purpose in life, not just an Olympian, but someone of purpose. And I was reading books on personal development, and there was this chapter that highlighted the power of putting your foot down. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't talking about physically. So I started to connect the dots between what this coach was telling me, how to move my body forward in the most optimum way. And then also this book is telling me to put my foot down. in how to move my life forward in the most optimum way. So I started to make this connection between my body, movement, and life. And I really felt like that was the beginning of this, of this new journey that I was about to embody. And, you know, that was very powerful for me. And I really believe it was because I connected to an essence that I had. You know, I think we all have that essence as children to put our foot down. You know, like you have a little girl, which, you know, they actually put their foot down physically when they really want something, right? Like they cross their arms and they put their foot down, like, hey, you know, this is, it's like an ownership. It's like, you have to listen to me. I'm putting my foot down. So I really feel like children have this essence in them to put their foot down, and not just in life, but they also have it physically. And the coach, the same coach that told me to put my foot down, he actually would use kids as a reference, as examples on how to move our bodies. He said they put their foot down naturally. Yeah. So that's what I share. It's that we have this essence in us, and once we remember that and we act on it and we embody that once again, I think that, you know, our possibilities are limitless.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I love how you combine the physical aspect to our spiritual or emotional state, and really give a clear view of what that would look like when we're almost like balancing courage and joy in life. And, you know, because if you got too much going on over here, then you don't have enough, and not enough going on over here, it can really mess things up in any areas of your life. You know, if you've got too much, maybe you spend plenty of time with your family, but you're not giving enough attention to your business, and then you have all the complaints of not making enough money. Or maybe you're spending too much time in your business and not enough with your family, and just there's this unworkability about that. So I really applaud you for connecting at such a young age, the opportunity for people to see that those kinds of experiences, you can either just allow them to happen, choose to have them happen. And I don't think people at a conscious level realize they're making that choice for themselves, or choose to have that experience be more spiritual and
yeah
go ahead.
Well that experience, I felt like it took me, you know, some time after to really own it and to really see it as for what it was. But I did start writing. I started writing when it happened, and I just started to write, and I started to talk about it. And the more that I wrote, the more that I talked about it, the more that it started to come to life. And that was the beginning. So I really felt like that experience had happened to me because there was something greater. And even though I hadn't really gelled it at the time, it wasn't solid yet. It was the beginning of it, and that became the first principle of the Hart method, and that was the ground. And the focus of the ground principle is to put your foot down. And you know, and for me, my message is that we have the answers in us. We have the answers in our body. And you know, yes, I worked with athletes, and I still work with athletes, but you know, so many of us have a hard time just connecting with our body. And you know, we get overwhelmed with these programs that are very intense, you know, and you know, you see people, you know, with 3% body fat, and they look all muscular and really lean. And for me, fitness is not that. You know, for me, fitness is for people to really be in their body to embody the essence, so, I applied that, putting the foot down, to walking, to simply be on a walk and to be mindful during a walk, and to know that even while you're walking, you can become aware of yourself and become aware of your life. And if you're asking yourself, well, how is that possible? Well, if you think about it, when you're walking, there's two forces at play. And these two forces are reflected in your legs. So your left leg and your right leg. So if you think about it, when you're walking, yes, you are moving forward because you are intending to move forward. And I want you to think about this also in life. So you have the intention to move forward in life also, as I'm talking about this physical act of walking. So if you're walking, you have the intention to walk, and then you start to walk forward. But if you think about it, when the legs are moving, there's one leg moving forward, but there's the opposite leg that's making contact with the ground, and the force is being applied down and back. So in reality, there's which I call negative force when the leg is going back. There's a negative force, and then the opposite is the positive force. So there's two forces at play. There's a negative and a positive, but you're moving forward. So I want, my goal is, what I'm sharing is that when people get up from their seats and they start walking, to know that their intention is to walk forward, but there's two forces at play. There's a negative force and there's a positive force, but they're still moving forward. And to be aware that whenever they are experiencing something negative in life, is to be like, hey, I'm experiencing this, something negative that's being experienced, but there's also a positive force that's also at play right now.
Yeah.
And to have that awareness and to realize that is very powerful, because you are able to own whatever experience you are going through, and you understand that there's something positive that's coming from that. There's also something great that's coming from that, and you're still moving forward. That doesn't mean you're stuck. It doesn't mean, and if you have that attitude towards that experience, then you're going to stay in that experience for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And I know that because I experienced it. I experienced it in life, and once I knew that it was also present in my body and in my movement, I felt like, wow, this is very powerful. And my work is fitness, and my work is with the body, but also I apply it to life.
Nice. That's amazing. I love it's right. It's like the polarity, of angry or happy. That's really good. So it really boils down to awareness and being present. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people manifest this stuff in their bodies. Almost, I don't think it's probably ever too late, but if they would just turn to like the tools, or, like you said you're a speaker, so I would imagine that you probably are up on stage sharing your message, and just by the simple fact of what you just shared with with your leg, the movement of your legs, that is like a nice little nugget right there, a nice little tool to use to make sure that you are being aware, kind of like the breathing techniques and stuff. Well, now, because now every time I walk, I'm going to be thinking about what you just shared with me. You know what I mean?
I know.
Unless I'm not in my head and not present. I love that.
And exactly, because it's going to bring you back to the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's that's a very powerful thing, because that's exactly what I feel is what we need, is to come back to that power position, which I call the present moment. And it's practical. And when you said, like, I know that when you said that when you go on a walk, you're going to think about it, you are. Yeah. Because your body remembers it, and it's already in you. And that's the thing that I hear with when I hear coaches tell children to drive their knees up and to run faster, those commands, I feel, take the children away from that essence. And we hear the same commands in life. What are you going to be when you grow up? what you got to do this, you got to do that, it takes them away from that essence, and as adults they find themselves like, shedding those layers and getting back to that power position of who they were, but I feel like my work is about preserving that essence in children, not just with the body, but also in their life, and allow that to manifest and to unfold in the most powerful way for them. And, not that it's too late for us adults, because, it's never too late.
Yeah, exactly. All right. She's knocking at the door. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Wow. So, yeah, I just also got another little nugget that when you were talking about the children, especially amongst mothers, I hear, because we have such large to-do lists and everything going on in life, hurry up, hurry up. And I mean, even myself, like I've caught myself where I'm in such a hurry that I'm rushing my daughter to hurry up and put her shoes on, or hurry up and put, so the message that I'm sending, not actually consciously thinking about it until you just said something, that I'm actually giving her a message as an adult to hurry up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Move a little faster. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's, of course, there's times when we find ourselves at, and it's necessary, but
yeah, we're not.
And I have children too, so I understand,
Yeah.
but to understand that there's this other space of awareness and presence, and it's not just always output, and we get so conditioned to think that it's all about output, and results.
Yeah.
We are result-oriented society, and we copy what we see, and we want to be what we see, but they don't, the power, society doesn't value going down.
Yeah.
There's no, when I was talking about the ball, no one talks about how that ball is being thrown down. Everyone talks about how high the bounce was and how great the bounce was.
Yeah.
But the bounce is only the result of the force that's being applied down. So the real work is in going down.
Wow.
That's the real work, So we don't value that as a society. We don't value like going down. We call it failure. We call it, we don't want to fail. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to go down. But that's where the work is, and it's in the body too. Like in order to move the body forward, when you start, if you think about it, if you want to start jogging, all you have to do is lean your body slightly forward. So that act is falling. And what you're going to do when you start to lean forward is you're going to take a step forward to catch yourself. So and then you continue that process, and that's jogging, that's running, but you're falling and you're catching yourself and you're expanding forward enough. So moving forward is a result of falling.
Yeah.
So knowing that there's support, so you catch yourself, the ground catches you, and then the expansion up. So it's there. It's the answers are there within you, and it's in the body, it's in movement. But we don't value the failing. We don't value the going down. We don't value those experiences. They're just experiences to move forward. And we stay away from that, and we try to avoid that. And, we see it now a lot in, with social media. We see what people are doing, and we want to do what they do. We want to copy what they do, but that's very result oriented. And who knows, maybe they're just showing something that they're not, and it's all just about being in ourselves.
Yeah. And I believe that we're starting to finally see a shift, within that paradigm that you're talking about. What do you think about that? At a more of a worldwide level, as far as that message goes.
I think we're definitely seeing a shift. But I also think that we're also more challenged to be not ourselves because of social media. We see there's so much visibility as far as what others are doing, and I find myself sometimes scrolling on other people and what they're doing, and I judge myself. Well, why am I not what they're doing? Like, oh, why are they driving that? It's like you see that so much. And yes, I believe that the opposite is happening as well. We are shifting as a society, and we are being empowered. But I think that's the both forces are happening.
Yeah, you're right. They are. And that's why I feel like it's so important that, if we can get into the social media realm as far as like TV and media and radio and all that stuff, that we can make a bigger impact, because that's where our youth is within the social media platforms. And so if we can start smothering social media with a positive, empowering message, that's
I speak at high schools, and
oh, nice.
When I could feel that when they resonate with something, and they do resonate with this message, I could feel it. It's almost like they're like, "Thank you." Yes, thank you. And it's such a important age, because I and that for me is like, okay, you know what, like my experience, what I did, my not qualifying for the Olympics is nothing compared to this person, this youth, this kid sitting in front of me with wide eyes, understanding something deep and knowing that it made a difference in him or her, and I feel that if his world, that message changed his inner world, and that for me is changing the world, because I know that you can attest that when you change something within yourself, your outside changes, right?
Yep. That's right.
So the world changes once you make a shift inside of you, then your outer world shifts also.
That's right.
And I think we get caught up sometimes in changing the world, and especially the youth. They get caught up in, oh, we're changing the world. I want to change the world.
Yeah.
But we sometimes forget that changing ourselves is much more powerful. And what if we didn't have to change ourselves? Like I said, this message is about preserving, and then who knows what our possibilities are.
Right.
Who knows where we can get.
Yeah, that's right. Embrace the good and the bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Embrace the good, the bad, the negative and the positive, the light and the dark.
Yep.
Knowing that it's just a part of who we are, and understanding that, I think it's powerful within itself.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you saw this. It was a Facebook. It's on one of those positive media social platforms on Facebook. It was Will Smith sharing about failure, and it's really good. And he talks about, a failure is just part of your life. It's, if you're running away from it, then you're not succeeding in what you're up to. And it was a really great message about failure. And that's really, I think that that's what I love about this show, is that you get different perspectives from different points of view and context from like your life. And because a lot of youth would resonate exactly with, like, when you started out having a dream at 10, and then taking on that dream. It's like, it's almost like you're kind of saying, well, first off, you got to slow down and become aware of your physical and your spiritual and emotional state, so that you can create a more positive effect in your life. And I know one message that I learned growing up is not, that to take care of others. It was not
Yeah.
just a message, but something that I became attached to. And that's where my focus was always at when you were talking about, where it's almost like an addiction. We get addicted to changing the world and forget about ourselves. And
Right.
my realm of coaching, I believe women are really starting to become more aware of like that loss of power and that loss of freedom and peace of mind. So, yeah, thank you so much. I really, really love your message and acknowledge you for being out there in our high schools and sharing in our communities, and thank you for being on my
Yeah.
show as well, because A New Day with Susan, you can go to treasurestateradio.com, download
Hmm.
and listen to this, so it's accessible by anybody in the world. And I love it because you're bringing your experience from another state. And even though I'm a Montana radio, um, I think it's beautiful that you get to share this kind of message. It's
Yeah.
powerful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. And like sometimes, people see my life and what I do and how I went from being an athlete to being a coach to being a trainer and to what I'm doing now to being an author, speaker. And I'm sure sometimes they're like, well, you're special, or you're talented. No, I'm not. All
Yeah.
I had was I had that 10-year-old in me, that I was that 10-year-old boy with the dream, and I moved forward towards that dream,
Mhm.
and I experienced, quote unquote failure.
Yeah.
But in that failure, I was able to still be aware enough to say, you know what, this is just an experience, and I'm going to continue moving forward, because I was mindful during that state. I was quiet. I was clear enough to see that there is this gift in that. And I
Yeah.
was able to connect those dots. And, now I'm, my body and my life move forward in a way that, I couldn't imagine. I'm living a bigger dream now. I'm living a bigger goal. And
Yeah.
that's the thing with our youth. Sometimes we have big goals growing up and then we shut them down because we failed or because of our environment doesn't support that. And then we're just living day to day and we're not happy and we're not joyous. We lose that essence. But I think it's very important that we have a goal and we have a vision and we have an intention, no matter how big it is, and to move towards it and to understand that there's going to be times when you're going to feel like you're far away from it. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're getting closer, and sometimes you're going to you're going to move even further away from it. But
Yeah.
those are all launching pads. They're launching pads into
Yeah.
something greater, and it's not a straight line and it's not just zigzag. It could go all over the place. But when you once understand that, that you're going to land somewhere great, and you're going to land somewhere even greater. And that's what happened to me. That's my experience. I didn't make my Olympic dream, but I landed somewhere greater. And having this and knowing that will land me somewhere even greater than that, than what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So it's a journey, and it's not just about the destination. And
Yeah.
that sounds cliche, but it is true.
It is. It's very true. That's so true. Awesome. Well, is there anything that you would like to add or share with the listeners today, before we end this show?
No, just to know that you are, the listeners, to understand that they are the power zone. There's nothing outside of them, and they have the tools to become aware and to move their life forward and to connect with their body, connect with their movement, and carry that connection over onto their environment. And if they want more information, I have a book called The Heart Method. They find that on my website or on Amazon. It's called The Heart Method, HART. They want to read more about the actual method itself and the principles. I spoke briefly today about the ground principle and the gravity principle, but there's also integrity, joy, harmony, freedom, now, and action. And that's all part of our essence. And we have the opportunity to embody that essence once again.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. If you want, we could actually go a little bit further into your book.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I go into a little bit more detail in the book on how we can, embody that and make it, something that we can take action on. And it's a practical way of moving the body and also moving the life forward.
Okay. And then could you say again one more time how people could connect with you? What are some ways that they can connect with you?
I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Armando Hart. That's ARMANDO HART. I'm also on Instagram, Armando_Hart. I have a website, armandohart.com. And for my book, it's on Amazon, but it's also you can also get that through my website. And I also work with athletes. So I do Skype sessions with athletes. So, I work with athletes on a 8-week series. So it's supplementation to their actual training program. And it's a system that it's intended to maximize performance, not just physical performance, not just performance on the field, but to also maximize performance in life so they can, I call it self-correct. So, if they're with the team or with their trainer, they know exactly what to do, how to self-correct their movement, and also how to self-correct themselves in life, within their life, within their relationships, with their teammates, is to become aware.
Yeah. But you said a little word that I actually love, which is integrity. Wow. Well, first off, I just want to say that the opportunity to probably get to work with you, because I'm not sure I've ever heard of a coach who actually works with, well, that's not true. I mean, I've heard of coaches working with athletes, but it sounds like you do it in a way coming from, like, being an athlete yourself, how to connect with people that are athletic so that they can combine that spirituality or the emotion and the physical aspect of things. I think that's amazing.
You got it. Yeah, that's exactly my work. And
wow.
it was a gift for me that I'm able to do that now and to be able to share it with athletes. And in the past, or there's a lot of programs out there that missing that aspect. They may have the physical part of it, but it's not applied to actual life. But my system is synergistic and it's harmonious. Okay. And athletes can apply it. They can apply it when they're moving their body, and they can apply it in their life. When they become aware of themselves.
Yeah.
And there's power in being self-aware.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've always heard of athletes who do the visualization work, but like I can even see how just when they're doing the visualizing, they're getting to some sort of result. But you're bringing like this whole nother aspect to it that, I think that would really make it exquisite.
Yeah. I mean, one of my visions that I have is to collaborate with organizations or athletes that have a huge platform, and they could become ambassadors for each of these principles. I mean, imagine an athlete or an organization that is able to, let's say an athlete is able to express this teaching or message in how they actually applied it to physical movement in their body, and it made their performance better. And how it, minimized the risk of injury, and it maximized their speed, their power, their output, and also they're able to express it and how they apply it to their life. Imagine that in a world like that for the youth to hear and understand it and be like, yes, totally. I love that.
That's really great. I know that was where my mind went to, was imagining it being taught in the schools by the gym teachers, and there's whole Oh gosh, that would be awesome.
I mean, yeah, and how they could actually take it from their body to their movement.
Yeah.
You know, imagine the ground principle, right? Like the ground principle. Okay, how does the ground principle apply to their body, to their movement, to their performance, to their life, and take it even further? How does it connect to the planet? Well, putting your foot down is making this connection and making the connection to Earth.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to make this connection, put the foot down and feel the earth and really embrace the earth and honor the earth. So it could go to the world level in that way also, to the environmental level.
I love your vision. I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that caught my attention, as I mentioned earlier, was when you use the word integrity. I absolutely love integrity. Without it, nothing works. What is your take on integrity?
I mean, integrity is such a powerful component in movement, and it's something that I learned when I was moving my body. It's so easy to lose integrity. You know, integrity is about being whole and complete in the body. If you're not in integrity in the body, then you're not whole and complete. So if the mind goes elsewhere, if you're thinking about what you have to do while you're moving your body, let's say you're on a jog and you're thinking about what you have to do, and then that thought leads to something else, and then that thought leads to something else, and you're moving further away from yourself.
Yeah.
So integrity is about understanding that and being aware of that, and to know, like, okay, I'm coming back to here. Am I putting my foot down? Is my core engaged? Am I falling forward? You know, so that is presence. That is integrity. And, you know, it's such a powerful component.
It really is. Yes. It sounds like you might be familiar with a program called, a company named Landmark Worldwide.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
I've actually taken some of their courses.
Yeah, me too. That's why I love the topic so much, integrity.
Integrity, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and people can apply integrity in every aspect of their life if they look at it, you know, coming from a point of view of that we're not always 100% in integrity. And it's like the wheel saying, if there's a spoke missing on the bicycle, then you have no integrity in the workability of that bicycle until you put the spoke back. So I love how because I've never actually heard it, in a physical way. So that's really delicious.
If you think about it, when we're walking upstairs, and it's very common when we're walking upstairs is to have this mentality of bringing whatever the leg that's trailing. It's very typical for us to bring the trailing leg to the front, to the top step. And that for me is a lack of integrity. Why? Because that's not a powerful movement. That's a very limited movement, and it's a fear-based movement, and it's not of integrity, because the leg that's behind you, for me, it's a metaphor for the past.
Ooh,
so we're bringing the past to the future. So why do we do that? Because we live in a fear-based mentality. We feel like we need to catch up. And, you know, I talk about this, you know, through my experience. There was a time in my life where I was moving my body that way, but I was also living my life that way. I would bring my past into my future, and then never felt fulfilled. I always felt like there was something missing. Why did I do that? Because I was afraid of not catching up to people, or where I was supposed to be. So that I was in a place where I was lacking integrity. I wasn't in myself. And once I made that connection of, you know, the power is in that leg that's being going down. You know, that for me is a power position. That's the present moment. And if I really engage myself in that action of that present moment, then the opposite happens for me naturally. So the opposite leg, now that's not the focus. Now it's acting in a very authentic in a very authentic way, and it's moving forward in an authentic way because it came from a good place. It came from that power position of being present. And that for me is integrity.
Yeah.
That's integrity, is to know that and to understand that it's right here.
Yeah.
Coming back to that experience, coming back to that present moment.
Yeah.
And I learned that when I was jogging. I really felt that power of that. I'm like, am I focusing on that leg that's right here, right underneath me? And once I made that connection there, and I felt that opposite leg moving forward for me naturally, I was like, wow, there's no effort in that. And I'm not really thinking about doing that. It just does it by itself, you know?
Wow. That's amazing.
It's almost like it'll take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, you know, what's going to happen in the future. You don't have to worry about, you know, or have anxiety about the future or blame the past. You know, they're insignificant compared to what is happening right now.
That's right. That's so awesome. Well, I definitely am excited about checking out your book, and I invite all the listeners to definitely, if you're as inspired as I am right now, definitely get out there and get onto Amazon and check out The Hart Method, and by Armando Hart, Hart, and looking forward to seeing you expand into the world of big athletic companies and sharing how that's going for you. So I look forward to watching you grow and expand yourself. It's going to be beautiful.
Thank you, Susan. And I know that when you go on a walk, you're going to feel better. Your stride's going to be longer, and you're even going to bounce a little higher. You're going to, you know.
Yeah, I already.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, you could feel it, right?
That because I'm already seeing a picture of it in my mind. That's really great, and I bet
it's very powerful too. And it's very motivating and inspiring, and you know, and that for me is when an athlete calls me or leaves me an email, says, I hear your voice every time I'm going on a run or I'm doing this. I'm like, you're not really hearing my voice. You're hearing your own inner voice. I was just a reminder.
Yeah.
I'm just a reminder.
That's great. That's really great. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Armando.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me on your platform.
No problem.